Producer Derek here. Content warning for today's episode. There is a story involving the loss of a pet and some mention of self-harm. If you wish to avoid these topics, skip minutes 9 through 14. Thanks.
I put a bucket against the door so Darcy can't break in mid-conversation.
Okay, let me click to the intro so I can have the intro and we can... All right. Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, a podcast illustrating the inspiring abilities of insects. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kelly.
Before we get started with this bug-themed character, what's bugging you, Kelly?
Well, I've missed you guys, of course.
Yes,
and
naturally.
Then a mosquito bit me in the back of the arm, I think, while I slept, because I woke up
your own kind.
with a huge mosquito bite, and I don't know how it got here. I'm very high up in a tower, which that makes me sound pretentious, but I live in a high-rise building.
Is not to be infringed upon.
My ivory tower is full of mosquitoes, apparently, but it must have been an albopictus because it's huge and very itchy, and they are my nemesis.
Well, I was a little bit late to the podcast today, but I hope once I tell you why, I will be forgiven. And it was because I was on a bug rescue mission.
Oh.
Let me send you the picture and you will understand.
I love a bug rescue mission.
Well, it took way longer than it should have, frankly. It should have just been a simple operation, but the 4-year-old got involved and you know how it goes. Where is here live recording chat? Here comes the pictures.
Oh, it's our friend.
It's our friend, Isabella Tiger Moth. Actually, a woolly bear. And it was... at the beginning of the Woolly Bear podcast, I said, I feel like I haven't seen one in 100 years. And
you were blessed with a woolly bear.
We went down this morning to play in what my child calls the big room, which is actually just the living room because the couches are far enough apart he can play in there. We were very surprised to find a little woolly bear on the carpet. I have no idea where he came from. We got home at 9 o'clock last night, so it's possible he just came in with us at some point. And it was really cold this morning, so he wasn't moving much, but he moved enough that I knew he was still with us. But he wasn't moving a whole lot. I took a picture. He was really tiny, too. I'm used to them being kind of inch-long little suckers. But he was eensy-weensy. But yeah, we set him free. We set this little woolly bear free on our... my kid also has been farming potatoes this summer, so we put it on one of his potato plants. As you can see in the picture I shared, there's a little bit of potatoes sneaking out. And I'll go check on him once it warms up a little bit and see if he's okay.
Oh, I'm glad you guys saved him. That's an excellent reason to be late to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. We didn't touch him because we recently learned that you're not supposed to touch them because they have irritating little hairs on them. As I learned from this podcast. We thought about putting him in a jar, but we decided that we've really been emphasizing with our son that if an animal is outside, if a bug is outside, that's where it belongs. You shouldn't mess with it. And that animals belong in the wild and the free and in the wild, as they say on Wildcrats. So he really wanted to set it free. So we set it free, and now
that's good.
Can join his woolly bear brethren on our potato plant.
And it'll keep your son safe from picking up things he shouldn't pick up. If you tell him everything should stay outside, you know.
That's an interesting thought. We don't live anywhere where there's particularly dangerous bugs. I think the most dangerous thing that lives around here is probably the black widow, and even then you kind of have to go looking for it.
Yeah.
You'd really have to be digging through some logs to find a black widow around here. Like, we don't have the brown recluse, although everyone else is always like, the brown recluse, it's in Oregon, it's coming for you.
Well, there are other difficult insects. I mean, even other like tussock moth caterpillars. You don't want to pick those up.
Or are they nasty on your skin or something?
Yeah, very irritating. Or you don't want him to go grab a wasp.
No, a yellow jacket straight to the face. It's not what I'm looking to have. No. But like, my sister lives in Arizona, and they're on the like, check your shoes for scorpions. Like, you know.
Oh yeah, that's
sort of stuff. Which I don't need that in my life, thanks. But the 6-year-old's really into it. Derek, did you send her a UV light so she could look for scorpions, or am I imagining that?
Yes, I did.
Of course, of course.
Consider it a safety protocol.
Yeah. Definitely not trying to freak out her mother. Definitely just trying to keep her safe from scorpions. Why do you know why scorpions will fluoresce under UV light?
I think it has something to do with a particular protein in their bodies.
Oh, okay,
Fluoresces.
interesting. Is it?
I'm
Do you
not.
know if
I'm
it's all
not
scorpions
sure.
or just some?
No, I'm pretty sure it's all scorpions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's their radioactive blood. They've been bitten by a radioactive man.
It's their superpower.
Oh, yeah. Coming to a TV screen near you, Scorpion Man. Man, Scorpion. There is a Scorpion in the Spider-Man franchise, but he's like lame, so we don't talk
really?
about him much. Well, he's a lot of the. Stay tuned for ours, or I guess this will come out after the Spider-Man episode. But on the Spider-Man episode, we didn't talk about that. A lot of his villains are just people in suits. Like I could think of at least 3 of his main villains are just guys in suits.
No powers.
Vulture is a dude in a suit. Rhinoceros is a dude in a suit, and Scorpion's a dude in a suit.
It seems like lazy writing.
Animals in suits. That's what we like. So. And Scorpion's one of those where they were really trying to just shoe in the thematic. He's a bug man who fights other bug men. So it should work. I think if you got the right rewrite on it, you could make Scorpion work. But if you're going with that original conceit, that original conceit of a dude in a suit with a robot tail, it's just a little hard to pull off. Does he have powers? Interesting. Oh. See, they clearly created him as a foil to Spider-Man, which is usually good writing. But then they took it too literal and just made him a scorpion. So that's not good writing.
I don't like that tail. It's very weird looking. Maybe it's just as particular still.
Oh no, it's always weird looking. It always looks more or less like that.
It's yeah.
It reminds me strongly of a video game I played as a child called Vector Man.
Oh, I remember Vector Man.
Where he was also just made of floating orbs. Sega, back in the days when Sega games were impossible to beat. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh my god. I had a Sega. Do you remember the dolphin video game?
Oh, Echo the Dolphin?
Echo? Yeah.
I have it on Steam and I still haven't beat it, even with being able to save and being able to look up how to get through levels. I've still never beaten it because it's just so hard.
It's very hard. Yeah. I love it though. That was one of my favorite games when I was a kid.
I would play just that first little bit where he's like, I think Echo might be a she, but the dolphin is like flouncing about with their dolphin family and they're like doing flips. I used to play that for like as long as the game would let me before it was like, no, the aliens are coming and they're taking your family. And you're like, no.
And the music is so soothing.
Oh yeah.
I love the soundtrack.
Yeah, like it's like on like Sega synthesized harpsichord. Like it's good. It's a good time. Back in the marine biologist days where every child in the 90s wanted to be a marine biologist.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to be a paleontologist and a marine biologist.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like every kid, at least in my age set, was like, you want to be a paleontologist at one point, you want to be a marine biologist at one point, and once you realize the marine biologist isn't feasible, you switch to veterinarian, and then you move on to what you're actually going to do with your life.
The must-have steps of a particular type of child. The total evolution. I think you're right. I think I also considered veterinary school at some point and then realized that I would not be able to put animals down. I couldn't do it.
Yes.
It would wreck me. Yeah.
I mean, it's not to get dark on the cast, but but it's like one of the higher, let's say self-harm. People self-harm a lot when they're veterinarians.
Yeah.
Because a lot of you get into school you want to help animals, and then you spend a lot of your time helping animals cross that rainbow bridge, and it can be really just hard on you.
And
My
it's important. It's an important thing to do, and it's the right thing to do for the
mhm,
animal in most cases to ease their
right.
suffering. But man, I couldn't
Yeah,
do it.
it's and a lot of people just like in your office sobbing. I don't know how
Yeah.
much you can put up with. Like, oh, who's crying today? You know, like, ugh.
And
My
our
cousin-in-law is a
veterinarian.
horse doctor, and she says she switched to horses specifically because you put horses down a lot less
Oh yeah, yeah. They live
because they
longer.
require a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
So you see them often enough that you like kind of get a rapport with this horse, which is what she wants. Horse rapport.
Or
But you don't necessarily have to like constantly be like, oh, sorry, your horse stepped in a hole and now it's no good. This
our
horse.
vet has a really nice system. They have a big electric candle on the front
Yeah.
desk and a little sign, and it says when you walk in, if the electric candle is lit, someone in the back room has to say goodbye to
Uh,
their friend. So like everyone knows to be quiet and
mhm.
respectful when they come out of that back room, and
Yeah.
it's very kind. They're a very kind
Yeah, that's very
office.
kind. Because
Yeah.
I remember our cat in 2020, the worst, the worst year. Our cat, unfortunately, because cats are they're fine until they're really not fine. By the time you
Yeah.
notice that they're sick, they're quite sick. A lot of animals are that way because weakness, you get
You
predated
get eaten. Yeah.
on. So yeah, he went from perfectly fine to we were saying goodbye to him in I think it was just a week.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's awful.
Yeah, and someone gave us the stink eye outside the office because my husband was deeply upset. Like
Oh,
it was like
who
I mean,
gives
it
you the
was no
stick?
time at all. Gave
That's
me because
terrible.
I end up talking about Cody too much on this podcast, but he this was the cat he had when he was a single bachelor.
Oh
He
yeah.
found the cat in the backyard and gave it cheese, and the cat was like, "You're mine now. We're cheese buddies forever." And he had a cat now, and I mean they were like best friends, him and this cat. Like it's been 2 years, and he still like talks about the cat as if the cat's in the
Hmm.
next room.
Yeah.
And I mean he took the day off work to stay home and be in bed.
As you
And
should.
someone was just like, ugh, crying and bubbling, "How dare you!" outside of
Ugh.
the office, and we were like, "Excuse you, do you want to fight right now? Because I'm ready to
Yeah.
fight."
I will fly in from New Jersey and fight you. That's so
You
rude.
earned
Oh
Kelly's
god.
ire. I don't know how much this is gonna make in the podcast because it's kind of a downer subject, but
I'm trying my hardest not to curse, just in
Mhm.
case it does, but I have a whole string of curses prepared for that person
Yeah, that
who
person.
would dare to be so mean about that. It's
One of
our
my
pets are family,
yeah,
pets
pets
are
are family,
family.
guys. Pets are family.
I like my
One of
pets
my
more than I like most of my family. Sorry,
I like my
family, if
friends'
you're
pets
listening
more than I
to
like some of my friends. Um, one of my favorite interactions of a stranger was I was at the Portland Art Museum, as I often was when I was in college because I lived down the street from it. And so I was at the PAM and I was in the gift shop and I was with my friend. We had gone to go see, I think it was a Roman exhibit about like Roman life. But I picked up a deck of cards and it was a Claude Monet deck of cards. And I said to my friend, "Do you want to play cards? Don't worry, we won't play for Monet." And a
this.
complete stranger started booing me, like aggressively booing me, like the witch lady in Princess Bride, just like boo, boo, pestilence, filth. A complete stranger just started doing that to me in the gift shop of the Portland Art Museum, and I was like, "That was a good one. That was good. I don't deserve this."
I would have clapped. I
Thank
would
you,
have walked
thank
by
you.
and clapped for a stranger.
Mhm, mhm.
I love a bad pun. It's so
I,
good.
I I love a pun that's so bad that it's good. Uh, I would say 30% of my friendship with one of my friends is just exchanging bad puns, and she hates it. She hates it,
Oh,
but she does it anyway. So
oh, I have the same relationship with my best friend. Hello, Jeff, if you're listening. Jeff is not listening to this,
we're just shouting
but
everybody out this
shout out
podcast.
to Jeff. But
Shout out to Jeff.
my husband hates it. He's like, "You guys are not funny. You're just not funny." He goes, "Only you and
Are we
Jeff
not
think each
funny, or
other are
are
funny."
you
Yeah.
not funny? Are you not clever enough to get my sweet puns?
um,
We should probably get on today's topic. Speaking of Pam, the Portland Art Museum, I refer to her as if she's my friend Pam.
Your best friend, Pam?
Me and my best friend, Pam. The Pam has a great collection of one of the things that's related to what we're talking about today. They have a great, what's referred to as ukiyo-e. Just a disclaimer at the beginning of this podcast. If I mispronounce some Japanese things in this episode, I apologize. My Japanese is not awesome. I have the fundamentals, but I'm not fluent by any means. But we have a sister city here in Portland called Sapporo. And we've had this, it's like the oldest sister city in the United States, or one of the oldest ones.
Oh, wow.
And we've been sister cities with them for like 60, like close to 65 years at this point. So we have a lot of Japanese print stuff at the PAM. The print room is not currently open because of funding issues, but I was able to study for I want to say it was a full year. We studied ukiyo-e through the PAM and all of their collection, and
what is ukiyo-e?
Oh, sorry. Ukiyo-e it's called the floating world is what it means, but in strictly in art terms, what it is printmaking, Japanese printmaking.
Oh, okay.
So if you've ever done the thing where like you take a potato and you carve it up and then you stamp it, that's printmaking, and it's that's a very simplified understanding of what printmaking is. But Japanese printmaking has this really deep and rich and hugely long tradition in Japan, and in particular when the West and the East were meeting. So sorry, we're getting into like a lot of art history here, but
that's okay. It's enlighten me, Amanda. I don't know, and I think it's interesting.
The Edo period is the last period of Japan where they're completely isolated, and they're starting to open up into particularly the Dutch but other European countries as well are coming to Japan and starting to trade with them because they have finally opened up. We could get into the whole history of like Japan was extremely isolationist for a long time, but so in the 18th century and the 19th century is when they start to open up into, okay, we're going to start trading with other people. And Japanese printmaking in particular became hugely popular in Europe and was deeply influential to everything that was going on in Europe art-wise. You'll see in the background of Vincent van Gogh, you'll see several ukiyo-e prints just on his walls because he loved Japanese printmaking. It was used as like a bonus gift, and like you'd get a fancy vase, and your like customer bonus gift would be a Japanese print. Like it was everywhere, and they had a name for it. I believe it was Japanese but it was basically the French and the Dutch and the English just super loved everything Japan they became super weebs of the art world in the 19th century, and just took all of these ideas, and that's where you'll see a lot of what we as Westerners understand to be Japanese aesthetics.
Well, it's good to know being a weeb is a very long
history. A time-honored tradition, my friend. Yeah. Since the moment they opened, people were like, oh, I'm into this. This is where it's at. And so a lot of printmaking in this time is trying to categorize, trying to immortalize what Japan was like before it opened up. So a lot of these prints are focused around geisha, focused around kabuki theater, focused around fishing villages, what they were like before the Westerners came, basically. So it kind of is this, I want to catalog and remember what Japan was like before it changed, but I also want to document how it is changing. So you have there's a period there where Japanese printmaking is like it has its thumb on the heartbeat of what's going on in Japan. So you can track a lot of how people are feeling about it just through these prints. I could go on about it for a long time, but I think it's really interesting to watch this feudal Japan switch from, okay, we're going to open up now. We're not going to be feudal Japan anymore. We're going to join up with the Western world. And it causes this extreme slingshot effect, rubber banding of them going from what we would consider, this old Japan, where they're wearing, kimonos, and they live in fishing villages, and they don't drive cars, all the way to what, bam, and just a few years later, the emperor's wearing a three-piece suit, and that's the official garb of the emperor now, is the three-piece suit, because he
Wow.
wants to be westernized enough to trade with the Westerners, who have all these things that Japan hasn't had because they've been isolated, and meanwhile Europe wants all the stuff that Japan has because it's cool.
Yeah.
So,
It's different and new and
yeah,
exciting.
and just aesthetically so different from what was going on in Europe, that it's they're like, okay, this is ours now. Knock knock, it's the United States. Yeah. I hope some of that gets cut down so I'm not just rambling on forever. But the short sum up is Japan was isolated on purpose. The emperor says, okay, we're gonna open up. Westerners come, particularly the Dutch, and they're like, oh snap, this is some cool stuff. You guys got cool stuff. What's samurais? Tell me about samurais. And weebdom begins.
And that kind of ties into today's topic, right?
Sorry. And that, all of that was just to say that it ties in today's subject, because we are talking about two little dudes, the rhinoceros beetle and the stag beetle, who are deeply popular in Japan. The way that we talk about like falcons, like every mascot is a falcon or a tiger or a bear
or a hawk.
You'd see more of that in Japan would be a rhinoceros beetle, a stag beetle, those little raccoon guys. I forget their raccoon dogs. Tanuki, that's what they are.
The rhinoceros beetle, I was reading about children in some parts of Japan. Children keep them like we keep hamsters.
Yeah, they
They're
keep
like
them and they
beloved
breed
pets.
them. They're just little $5.
Yeah, they're super cheap.
Starter pets.
Very cute. No, it kind of made me want a rhinoceros beetle after doing the research for today's episode. Just put one on my desk.
Yeah, they seem like they're pretty easy to care for, given that they give them to children, so it can't be too intensive. But yeah, they're just one of those cute little dudes. And the reason why I say it ties back is because the rhinoceros beetle in Japan is referred to as the helmet beetle, referring to the samurai helmet. It literally just means helmet bug. And if you're talking about a helmet bug, you're talking about this beetle, and it's samurai helmets are originally based off of trying to look as much like this beetle as possible.
It's very cool. It's a kabutomushi, I think, is the term.
Yeah, something close to that. I failed to look up the actual.
My Japanese pronunciation, but I think it's kabutomushi. I may not be inflecting on the right parts of the word, but
yeah,
the kabuto part is helmet, and then the other part is insect. So it's just.
So if you're familiar with the word
bug.
kabuto at all from Pokemon,
yeah, that's right. The
Kabutops, I believe it is.
I thought it was Heracross.
Heracross as well, yes. So Heracross is like literally just the rhinoceros beetle, but big, which again shows how popular it is, because a lot of the animals get transformed into something more fantastical.
Yeah,
but they didn't have to change a dang old thing about that. About that beautiful rhinoceros beetle. He just comes straight out. I'm Heracross. I'm just a big beetle.
Well, they're so neat. So there's the biggest or one of the biggest flying insects is the Hercules beetle, which is a rhinoceros beetle. And if you could picture one of these big old dumpy beetles flying, it is slow. It's very slow. They're not good
all
flyers.
I can imagine is just like, time to go. He's just like very, very slowly making his way across your room. You're like, come on, man.
Well, they can weigh up to 1 ounce.
So, wow. So
which is a pretty heavy
they're
bug.
Big, heavy dudes.
Yeah.
I like them. I think I'm with you. I think I want one as a pet. They seem fun.
I think they're kind of cute. Rhinoceros beetles aren't aggressive, so they're a pretty good pet, even for kids. I had also read that they, in not just Japan, but I think maybe Thailand, they will bet on the beetles on two males fighting. They turn it
Yeah.
into like a which is
It's
pretty funny.
yeah, like a little. I think it's a lot sweeter. I think you're if you're gonna fight some bugs,
It's
let them just
certainly
roll each other over and be like, "I'm the winner," and then
yeah. It's not
everyone
like
goes home
rooster
happy.
fighting, which
Yeah,
is horrific.
yeah, exactly. It's not. No one's getting hurt here. No one's getting
No,
hurt.
no. The males want to fight. They come together during the breeding season, and they take those big ol' rhinoceros-like horns, and they just wrestle. They come
Oh,
together and
wow.
they wrestle and they try to flip each other over, and whoever flips the other one over first is kind of the winner.
So it's a bit like turtles in that way, where like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's my understanding that the females have no horn at all. It's
No,
just the dudes have the horn.
the females are very cute. They're super round and they have kind of pretty, I think, little like pretty shaped heads and antennae, but no big honking horn. So she's a better flyer. She's much less.
A little less nose heavy for her.
Yeah.
She can get away.
She's not as encumbered. Same thing with the stag beetles. So stag beetles and rhinoceros beetles are only related in as much as they are beetles.
Oh, really? They're not that related.
No, no, they're different families, which is cool because then we see these two big sexual dimorphic horn structures, or for the stag beetle, it's big mandibles
Mhm.
that have developed separately in two different families, and it's really just for the ladies. Ladies.
Ladies. So I would say, as a Westerner, again, I'm coming at this from someone who has studied it in an academic field, but not necessarily like a cultural one.
Mhm.
I would say that the Western idea of Japan, the two big things that come up are samurais and sumo wrestlers and anime, but we're not talking about that right now.
Yeah,
So,
when I think Japan, I think samurais because
yeah,
the warrior culture is really interesting to me, and so
again, the
many.
Bushido code is very
Mhm.
reminiscent of what we would understand to be the chivalry code
Yep,
for
yeah, for
knights.
European. So
Yeah,
I find that to be fascinating. I
but it lasted a
know,
lot longer than
yeah,
the knights. Our knights faded away kind of to obscurity, and the samurai code kind of stuck with. I would say that it's like the knights of chivalry. The actual like following of that code is pretty iffy, but
yeah.
you know,
What are you gonna do?
but the idea of it, the aesthetic of it, stuck around a lot longer.
Hmm.
So I would say if we're doing these two little beetles, we can separate them into one's a samurai and one's a sumo
The
wrestler,
sumo.
and they're friends.
Which which would you make? Who would be what?
Because the rhinoceros beetle literally means samurai helmet, like
Okay,
literally
go
those
for
two
that.
items are connected via the word. I would say that that seems like the obvious connection. And I should say at this point that in Japan, these bugs have heroes based off of them
Hmm.
in plethora. There's plenty of beetle based bros. I believe there's even a show called Beetle Bros. Uh, there's lots of them. A Beetleborg made it to America briefly in like I think the late 90s. Uh, but there's plenty of beetle based characters in Japan. It's just that we in America in particular haven't seen many of them because it's just not in our zeitgeist in the same way.
Well, what we could do, and thank you for producer Derek too. I see you, Derek, in Discord recommending this. Um,
Oh,
so stag beetles are very much a European animal.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, my gym trainer, he's from London, and we were talking about the beetles found in England and how meaningful that symbolism is to British people. And they're named after stag beetles are obviously named after the white stag, big deer, because
Oh,
the antlers. But in European culture, the stag beetle has a lot of symbolism too, and we actually have drawings of the stag beetle from around 4000 BC in Europe.
wow.
So they've been a really important part of European culture. So what if, as Derek recommends, what if we make a knight out of the stag beetle and a samurai out of the rhinoceros beetle?
Night friends. Night
And they could be
friends.
chivalry friends.
Chivalry friends. Yeah, I love this. Okay, okay. Let me quickly sketch down. I don't want to cross into the land of cultural appropriatism,
Right, right.
but I do want to kind of give him that classic kind of samurai stance. You see it a lot in ukiyo-e of sword up, kind of up by your ear, and then you got one leg
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as you're kind of in a lunging sort of pose.
I think I've seen that before in prints.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I'm sure you have, because it's a very popular. A lot of what we understand samurai to be comes from this period where they are producing print both to catalog what life in Japan is like, but there's also an economic element to it of, oh, they want to buy this in Europe, I'll make the kind of stuff that sells. And samurai prints sold. So there is a lot of, and it does bring up a question of like how much of it is really accurate, but luckily we have a lot of samurai armor on display around the world, I would say.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is purely ritualistic, and so it stayed really nice because you have these deeply intricate helmets that weren't really worn to battle at all.
Yeah, they're really, really
Like,
beautiful. I've seen them in the
if you've
art
ever,
museums here in New York City.
yeah, if you've ever been interested in metalcraft at all, I would say spend some time looking at samurai helmets because they are very, very cool. But if you're familiar with them at all, they have this split horn in front of them, in the front often, and you'd think that would be more related to the stag beetle, but it's actually where the rhinoceros beetles, he has that horn, and then on the very end of the Japanese rhinoceros beetle, he has it splits into two.
It's a Y. Yep, yeah, it becomes
it's a big Y.
And then further back on the head, they have a little horn. I don't know if samurai helmets have the same thing.
It depends, because again you're looking at hundreds of years of aesthetic here, and pretty commonly they will have either these rhinoceros beetle horns in the front, or the Y, or they'll have a moon shape, a crescent shape, something like that. And originally it has a sword catching purpose, but eventually it just becomes more or less an aesthetic choice. And it's funny to look at like the old helmets are even more beetle like because they're like really tall. Like imagine like a traffic cone with like horns on it. Like, yeah, let me quickly send one to your.
Yeah, I'd love to. I haven't looked. I didn't want to spoil myself for any of the samurai helmet stuff because I.
Oh no, fair enough. Okay, I'm gonna send it to the Discord real fast.
Okay, so you have a photo for me in.
I shared several into the chat here. So the very first one is that beetle shape, and I believe, again, I'm not a Japanese historian.
Oh, wow.
But I believe this one was more meant for protection from like arrows and stuff. But so that very first one is an older example where it was really quite bug-like. Like if the lines on everything about it really reminds me of the shell of a beetle.
Yeah, that line work looks a lot like the carapace of a beetle. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then the next one down is showing how they went from functional war helmets to like purely symbolic decorative pieces. Like the horns are huge.
Oh yeah.
There's this beautiful golden phoenix on the front. I think it's technically a pheasant, but
that's awesome. That's so cool looking.
And then this one,
then there's the really big horn underneath it.
Yeah. The Hoshibachi helmet. Hoshibachi just means riveted helmet, because the way that helmets are made is they're all bent into the middle piece and then riveted in place through one rivet at the very top of the head. And so this one had a little bit more of that, like just a single horn, and then the next one down is a little bit more of like, I would say that is like your template of what a samurai helmet looks like. Is this, they have the neck guard, the rivet helmet up to the single rivet, and then they have this Y-shaped horn on the front.
Right. It's so neat. I think I like I don't know which one I like the best.
You could just fall down a whole well.
Yeah, they're all very cool.
Because I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces have been saved and kept nice, because this was right at the period where it was, as the samurai died, as the samurai culture was eliminated by Western influence. A lot of Westerners were like, no, you should save this. This is cool. So kind of a catch-22 on that whole thing. We have a lot of examples of it because it was taken. So
it's yeah. But it's amazing looking, and it's incredible how much like the rhinoceros beetle these helmets really look like. That's awesome.
Yeah. Quickly sketch in some basic forms here.
Yeah, I think this comparing, not comparing, but doing a team of samurai and knight will work out pretty well, especially given both taxa, the rhinoceros beetles and the stag beetles, have a lot of biological similarities, and not just those big old honkin' headwear the males use for fighting.
Oh, I can tell already. This is going to be an intensive. This is going to be an intensive drawing course.
It's gonna be tough.
It's going to be a tough one, but that's okay.
So
It's interesting that in Kubo and the Two Strings, which as a Portlander, I'm obviously very attached to Leica as a studio. That's just, I don't know if you've seen Kubo and the Two Strings.
No, what is that?
So Kubo and the Two Strings is a Leica, who's the same ones who did like Coraline. They did Box Trolls. I'm trying to think of other ones that you would have seen if you haven't seen Kubo, because Kubo is like a Paranorman. So they're a studio here in Portland that does stop motion animation, and they only come out with a project like once every 4 years because of how long it takes to do stop animation, that they're working on several projects all at once. Kind of Kubo and the Two Strings it's kind of their big Oscar run. They were nominated for the Oscar. They lost to Zootopia, which, as much as I like Zootopia, I will always find to be a misstep in like the award ceremony world, because Kubo is a masterpiece in my opinion. It is the story of a boy who, through the power of his stringed instrument, I believe it's a koto, he can manipulate origami paper.
Oh, cute.
And then he goes on this great journey with with a monkey and a samurai who is a beetle. Let me quickly show you the samurai who is a beetle.
Yeah.
Kubo.
Oh, neat. Yeah, that's very cute. He's very beetle-like.
So he's clearly more staggy to my eye, because he's got the double horn thing going on. But he's clearly referencing samurai helmets, in my opinion, on that as well.
Yeah, and well, the thing with the stag beetles, they don't have horned protrusions like the rhinoceros beetle. They have big mandibles.
Yeah,
so if it were a stag beetle, it should be coming from the front.
Yeah, I think they want to keep his face nice.
Yeah.
And I won't ruin it for you, because I really think you should go watch it, because I think it's a great film.
I'm obviously behind in my bug themed shows.
I'm going to start a curated list of like bug movies that Kelly needs to watch, and Kubo is right on the top of that. This is the only bug dude, but what a bug dude he is. I believe
we'll have to do a whole episode where I just review bug movies.
I gotta double check now that it's Matthew McConaughey. I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, Beetle is played by Matthew McConaughey.
Nice.
And yes, I don't want to say too much because I want you to watch it now. But it is Charlize Theron, who we have previously discussed as our big crush of Hollywood.
Oh, love her.
She is the monkey. So Monkey and Beetle go on this adventure with Kubo. And that's all I'll say, because I really want you to watch it and be surprised.
I will find it and I will watch it. I have many streaming services, so it's gotta be somewhere.
Now I really want to watch Kubo and the Two Strings, because it is so good. Sorry, I'm just quickly looking up some sword stuff so that I can draw this sword correctly.
No problem. So I guess while you're drawing, Amanda, I can go over a little bit of their life history.
Yes, tell me more about this beetle boy.
Beetle boys. So both female rhinoceros beetles and stag beetles will lay their eggs in usually rotting wood. Rhinoceros beetles will also be laid underground, usually near rotting wood. And then they do your favorite thing, where they remain larvae for a super long time.
For a super long time.
For some stag beetle larvae can be larvae for 6 years.
Dang! So they're just living their little pre-puberty life over there, aren't they?
So these two families, the stag beetle and rhinoceros beetles, there are many, many species. There's about 1,500 or more species of rhinoceros beetle and over 1,200 species of stag beetle, which is not surprising because Coleoptera, the entire beetle order, is maybe the largest order of insects. Many, many, many options in the stag beetle and rhinoceros beetle world if you're looking for artwork suggestions, Amanda.
No.
So I don't think you want to look through 1,500 species of rhinoceros beetle,
I,
but
I, I don't. I will take the general size and shape, please, only.
all right. So yeah, both of them remain larvae for a fairly long time. 6 years, like I said, for the stag beetle, and only maybe 8 months for the rhinoceros beetle. The rhinoceros beetle overall has a shorter lifespan than the stag beetle, and then they become pupae, and the pupae is 6 to 8 months for the stag beetle and about 2 weeks for the rhinoceros beetle.
Oh.
It just sounds cozy. You're just all wrapped up in that little pupae for 6 months.
Sounds nice. I'm trying to get there myself.
I want to be a little pupa when the winter rolls around.
Oh.
Just all cozied up until it's time to be an adult in the springtime again.
All right.
And they eat a ton. You remember our best friend, the woolly bear, who eats a lot.
Yes.
The beetle larvae are doing the same thing, but they're eating detritus and kind of broken down rotting wood. But the fun part is at least for the rhinoceros beetle, they can get to about 4 inches in length, the larvae.
4 inches?
Yeah.
For
Can
a
you
little...
picture it? It's not little, it's so big.
I mean, I know that it's a pretty big beetle at the end. And
Mhm.
one of the things I've learned over this podcast is that the caterpillar is going to be a lot bigger than whatever emerges from its cocoon, because that's just how energy works. But my gosh, I'm sorry. You can see me holding up my hand as I try to imagine a 4-inch.
Amanda's got her hands up and she's trying to picture a big larva in her palm.
That's
Very
a chunky
big.
That's a chunky boy. That's all I gotta say about that. Oh my gosh. Now I gotta.
They're probably about as big around as your thumb.
I'm sorry. The silence. That was my
speechless.
Face, like, just, oh my gosh. It's furious typing. Oh, these are big. Oh no. Oh no, they're so cute as adults. But let me say, they go through that awkward teen stage for sure. They're like middle stage is really interesting too, where they're like the horn is kind of visible through their
for the pupa. Yeah, it's very cool. A lot of beetles in general have been the larva has been a food source for indigenous people.
I was about to say it. I was like, should I say this? But these look tasty. If I was starving in the woods and I was like, I just gotta eat something, and I stumbled across this dude, he'd be eaten for sure. I'd be.
You think they look tasty? Oh, I
don't think they look tasty. Let me take that.
I
don't think they look.
The squishiness of their big bodies. I feel like I couldn't do it.
I don't think they look tasty. I think they look edible.
I mean, nutritional. They're very nutritious.
They look like
they're all fat. They're just making fat.
They look like they would help me survive another day if I had to eat them.
They're a big source of protein and.
I have scrolled down to the Hercules beetle larva, and oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's a thing, right? It's a thing.
Oh, it's a thing and a half, I'll tell you. Oh my gosh. Now my Google ads are going to be all messed up from furiously Googling larva. Oh, wow.
My Google ads are very strange. Very, very strange. But yes, they're real thick children of the.
Oh my gosh, I love the phrase "thick children." That is how's your son? He's a little thick.
He's a little thick.
Oh wow!
So they go from being these huge white. It reminds me of the brain bug from Starship Troopers. Just this big thick thing, and they emerge as, I think, these two very distinct, beautiful types of beetles. And they, of course, as we've learned with many species who have a long larval stage, they have a pretty short adult lifespan. Adult stag beetles live for about 3 to 6 weeks if they're lucky, and rhinoceros beetles only for 3 to 4 weeks. And they do, but they come out and they eat. It's not like some butterflies where they can't eat.
Yeah.
So they munch on some stuff as adults. They do their mating, and then they call it a day, forever.
they're out of
Yeah.
they're out of here.
Right. And they can be really pretty. Stag beetles, at least the ones in England that I'm thinking of, can be iridescent green. So they're just gorgeous coloration with those big mandibles. And the stag beetle mandibles are kind of funny. They can be 18% of their total mass is just mandibles.
A fifth of them walking around is just their big
It's
old
just
toothy
mandible.
boys.
Yeah, they're toothy boys.
Wow. They're not messing around when it comes to this, are they?
No, not at all. It hampers their flight a little bit.
Yeah,
they,
we talked about how slow they were earlier, but there's no way.
I was looking at a couple studies, and they have to expend 25% more energy than females while flying because that head gets in the way. And while running, they're 40% more energy expenditure than females with no big heads.
Oh.
And stag beetles will frequently fall over. The males will just fall over because their heads are
That's
too
so
heavy.
cute. Oh, just hobbling along, these little dudes.
So they've really done that. To me is when sexual dimorphism becomes just fascinating, when it's to the point where you might fall over. And we think about peacocks generally. When I teach my students about sexual dimorphism, we talk about a big peacock tail.
Yeah.
And how it gives the males, they're very visible, their tails are super heavy, so they're not very good at flying, which would make them theoretically easier to catch by predators. So if you can live to be an adult with that insane tail, the ladies find you very attractive. And the stag beetles, I think, are kind of a similar thing. If you're gonna fall over and roll down that hill because your headpiece is too big, but you're still alive, the ladies are interested. And they want to hear from you.
They want to know what's going on with you.
I almost never get to recommend a documentary but BBC did a show called Life, hosted by the wonderful world's grandfather, Sir David Attenborough. I love him.
I love him.
Oh, I love him.
I won't do my David Attenborough impression, but no, it's been whipped out before.
Oh, well, in Life, there's a scene with stag beetle males, and it's great. He's discussing what's going on, and so the males are crawling up this tree, and higher up in the tree there are females waiting, and the males need to get to the females to mate, but they keep stopping along tree branches to fight each other. And
They're just too distracted by their own desire.
They can't help it. They're hopped up on hormones. They're ready to go. And they fight each other on the tree branch until one picks up the other and throws it off the tree.
I had enough of you. Get out of here.
But it bounces when it hits the ground. It's really kind of comical. And then the winner keeps going higher up, where he finds more males on his way up to the females, and they just keep
he's got to fight them.
Fighting.
He's got no choice.
It's an epic saga of stag beetles. It's great. But that's BBC's Life. It's fantastic. Episode 6. Thanks, Derek. It might be on HBO Max now.
Oh yeah, because
I think we saw it on cable, like probably Nature or something. Yeah, it's fantastic. And it reminds me of, like we were talking about in Europe and chivalry, knights fighting each other for the hand of the fair maiden, right?
For that romantic love, of their pure love, where nothing ever happens. It's always the funniest part of those romantic poems for me, is that like part of the code is that like the nothing ever happens between them. Like that was the pinnacle of romance at the time, was like he just loves her. He's so devoted for her. So much so that he will never ever kiss her.
Yeah. They will never touch.
They will never touch. They will only, exchange favors.
How's your artwork coming?
Well, I'm trying to add as many beetle elements to this knight. I went with knight first just because I feel like he'll go faster, because I'm more technically familiar with how knights do, because I'm a Westerner living in the West.
Yeah, get some pictures of stag beetles. You can see the shape of their mandibles is really interesting. And
yeah, let me pull up a stag beetle real fast here.
And given their relationship, or their name relationship to the stag in European culture, you could probably use antlers.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting point that I could. Yeah, I think I'm going to give him shoulder horns, just so that they're not on his helmet, so he's not running it. But I don't know. I feel like I got to make him bigger. He's got to be bigger, because he needs to be like a tank dude. If he's the tank, And then the samurai beetle, rhinoceros beetle, can be kind of the
fighter kind of.
The fighter, yeah. Yeah, he's kind of got really cool, like, it's antler shape. I can see why they named it after the antlers, because it's these two big
The mandibles are very
hooked on,
shaped.
Let me see if I can try to reflect that a little bit in my horns here. And then, kind of curve him around a little less pointy.
Yeah, it looks like a little 2 or 3 pronged deer.
Yeah.
His mandibles. Now I kind of want a pinned.
Yeah, well,
stag
I mean, we
beetle
started by saying like, oh, they're so
collection.
friendly. They're kind of kept as pets, and then you say, well, they only live a couple of weeks. I'm like, that's sad now. I want a hamster at least lasts a while. Is, I guess what I'm getting at here.
Well, the stag beetles are not. I don't think stag beetles are really kept as pets. Just the rhinoceros beetles.
Yeah, okay,
stag beetles will bite you with those mandibles, and they're very painful.
That I believe.
There's a lot of pressure in those mouth parts. Oh, but speaking of like strength, both of these guys should have some kind of super strength, by the way, for the hero complex.
Oh yeah, let's talk power sets here. Their natural power sets should definitely include super strength,
really slow flight.
Really slow. You always see heroes just take it off, just whoosh, and they're like, okay, we'll beat you there, whoosh, and then the stag beetle just like, all right,
barely going. 2 feet above the ground, slowly.
Here I go. Just walk. No, I'm gonna fly there. Just come on, man. Like everyone's just like walking past him as he slowly flies by. He's level 1 on the old City of Heroes flight power. You're like, just walk. It's not worth it.
So slow. Oh, it's so slow. Well, the kind of cool thing about Hercules beetle, that really honkin' boy, that rhinoceros beetle.
Yeah, that big honkin' boy.
It can lift 850 times its own weight. So he should be very strong. Your samurai should be beefy.
I'm gonna have to make this boy wider. He's gonna have to be a wider boy. Hold on. I gotta quickly mess with my with my proportions here. He's gonna have to be okay. I gotta give him a huge sword, right? That's just my.
Oh, he needs a big sword.
That's my Final Fantasy roots talking. That he just needs a sword. That's just like it's unmanageable how huge this sword is.
You gotta pay homage to Square, right?
Square soft, you and me, buddy. Can't tell you how much of my youth was spent. So much of my youth spent on unnecessarily huge swords.
Is it Cloud sword? My brother got me a big sword like that for Christmas one year because I really liked Final Fantasy, and I still like Final Fantasy. But I owned the big Cloud sword, and it was ridiculous.
Every now and then you'll see a cosplayer really try to pull it off, and you're like, good on you for carrying around this huge sword all day.
It's a lot. I think I do still have it somewhere. Unfortunately, because rhinoceros beetles and I think stag beetles are pretty popular for exotic insect collectors, where we're seeing some issues with like black market deals on sharing an endangered species, which is never
that's never the look, is it? That's never what you want to be doing.
So please don't buy endangered species if you want to own them as pets. There are plenty of not endangered beetles that you can own if you want. So always make sure you know who you're buying from and that you know what species you're getting, because we don't want to promote any kind of ecological disaster. I think we've talked about it before. Everything in the ecosystem is linked, and it's not okay for us to just take whatever we want all willy-nilly. What colors are you thinking about for your guys?
Oh, I don't know. Part of me wants to go with the classic red and blue, where one is red and one is blue, because that's the rules of character design.
It does seem to be the rule.
That's the rule. I can't help the rules, Kelly. I'm just a student of the rules. I'm gonna give him that square head. I always thought that was the funniest knight head shape.
Oh,
that the big square head, yeah.
Well, for the rhinoceros beetle, they come in green, yellow, brown, black, kind of like a reddish brown color.
So I can do red.
So you can do red. Stag beetles, they don't really come in blue. They come in like iridescent, that iridescent green color.
Yeah.
And okay, also let's go black.
You could do green and call him the Green Knight. That's definitely not already taken. That's not already a name. Don't worry about it.
Amanda, what a great idea. How did you ever come up with that? The Green Knight.
The Green Knight. Who would have thunk? For those of you who do not understand the reference, the Green Knight is a hugely popular poem from the era of knights. It's about, is it Galahad's son? It's not Galahad. Maybe it is Galahad.
It's about
Yes,
Sir
it's
Gawain.
Gawain. It's Gawain. Of course, it's
Yeah.
Gawain. Recently, a movie version of it came out that my parents watched with me.
Oh,
I had already seen it, but my parents watched with me, and they just kept asking me questions about what it meant. I was like, you think just because I've read the original poem, I know what's happening here? I don't know. And the answer
I
was,
really liked it.
I really liked it too, but I
liked
spent
it,
most of
yeah.
my second viewing of it explaining what was happening to my parents. Like, wait, who's the witch? Wait, is she his mom? And I was like, guys, just watch the movie.
Pay attention.
All will be revealed.
And
the answer is no, it won't all be revealed. That's part of the frustration they were having.
I'm like real into, I love folklore and history. And so when The Witch came out, did you watch The Witch?
The Vavitch.
The Witch,
yes.
yeah, fantastic.
The Vavitch.
And then this, then this came out, and I was like, please give me more movies that are just this. Give me more folklore.
I honestly, I feel like it's one of the things that Disney, at least, whatever qualms you have with them, they are really great at updating a fairy tale, and I feel like other people should be taking advantage of that format.
Yeah,
like just update old stuff, guys. Stop remaking movies from the 80s and remake a poem from the 1800s. That's all I'm saying. Go all the way back. We're going 1400s poems.
1400s, I think.
Yeah.
But
stop making movies about
so cool
Elizabeth.
material.
We get it. We understood what happened with Elizabeth. We don't need another movie about it. Give me
so
some.
Many. Remember the Kate
so
Blanchett?
Many. Oh, the Kate. That one's great though. I can't fault that one.
I love that one. Yeah, I must have seen that 100 times.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll refer to someone as a real Dudley. And that's just me referencing like this tease, this guy. He, if he had any gumption, he'd be king. But he doesn't have any gumption.
No gumption. Lacking in gumption.
Is it Tom Hardy in that version as Dudley?
Oh my God, is it?
I know Tom Hardy plays him at one point, but I can't remember. Is that
where
my
love of Tom Hardy's?
It's very possible that we've discovered an origin for you.
I'm trying to Google it now.
Okay, let me.
I'm so excited to see your artwork for this.
So I have. Let me give you the bare bones sketch of my Western Knight.
Oh yeah, let me see.
Let me know if he's. Part of the problem with this podcast, for me at least, is I always feel like if I had 3 weeks to come up with a design, it'd be a lot better. But I have to like kind of just do like the most basic of beesies for this purpose. But that's okay.
You do know the topic, so you could technically come up with
I try to do it based off what we talk about at the time, because I feel like that's more organic. I feel like we're lying a little bit if I try to do too much pre-research.
I guess that's true.
This is the Stag Boy. Again, this is just like his most bare bones version. Okay, so here's the sketchiest of sketchy forms of him.
Oh yeah, I love the shoulder detail for the mandible.
Yeah, and I'll make those attached to his shoulders more realistically. That's
very cool. I like that, and that abdomen shield shape is very cool too.
Yeah, I'm into the idea of him having a huge sword and a huge shield and just being a tank boy. I don't draw tanky dudes very often, just because I don't. I'm more of a Isabella Tiger Moth.
Oh, Isabella, our friend and champion.
There she is, the queen. I can't tell you guys how hard it has been, and I will eventually not resist any longer the desire to just make Isabella Tiger Moth fan art of my own podcast. Just like, okay, here we go. I'm just gonna draw Isabella. She's so good.
You've gone like full.
Yeah, I'm all the way in. I'm all the way in on Isabella. So let's switch gears over to Samurai Boy here. Oh, I don't want to draw this much samurai armor, so I think I'll put him in a not samurai suit.
Well, you don't have to complete it right now. You've got like a month.
That's true. I guess that's very true. I could lie to the people. Let me scroll back up to find my samurai helmet references I had. So in episode 1, I said my son had brought me a book and said, "Mom, what's a stag beetle?" And that is because we have a little Japanese book about like bugs and stuff. And of course, it's translated from Japanese, so it has a lot of Japanese bugs in it. And one of them was the stag beetle, which so I forgot where I was going with this because I'm trying to draw and talk at the same time. So on the samurai masks, they often have this face shield that is very Oni-esque of trying to scare their opponents. I don't know if you scroll on one of the reference pictures I showed you, it's a complete face mask. I don't know how you want to approach that on a beetle. Maybe I'll just cover it with his sword. I feel he should also have a big...
Gonna cheat?
Yeah, well, you know. Maybe I'll also give him a big curved sword just to kind of mimic his... Oh no, that looks weird. I need it to be bigger and curvier. You have to make that bigger in post. Again, I think I'm going to go with like beetle shaped armor pieces to try and reference that beetle a little bit again. I haven't given either one of them any sort of wing situation.
Well, beetles keep their wings pretty tucked away, so you don't have to.
Maybe I'll put a little wing detail on
their wings are very delicate, so they keep them under the carapace there. Oh yeah, cape. Derek's mentioning a cape.
Oh yeah, superheroes and capes.
And knights and capes.
Knights and capes. I would argue that those two things are connected, but
yeah.
So there's an episode of Mythbusters where they talk about samurai armor as made by paper. I think about that episode a lot whenever...
I love Adam Savage's Tested. We watch him on YouTube now.
Yeah. Also very cool. So a lot of samurai strength of their armor is just literally stacking. It's so... I guess you like roof tiles. They've been tiled together so many times that like, oh, you got through one layer, but it's like there was 3 more layers under that.
Yeah, they're really neat. The construction is pretty awesome.
So if you've ever been to Portland, speaking of this, the sister cities earlier, the bell outside of the convention center that is where everyone meets up. I'll meet you at the bell. I'll meet you at the bell. That is a gift from our sister city of Sapporo. Fun facts for you.
Oh, that's cool. I've seen the bell. Yeah, when I was in Portland. I didn't know it was a gift from your sister city. That's very cool.
All right, let me look up. I don't want the larva. I opened up what I thought was my rhinoceros beetle reference.
Surprise! It's a thick.
Surprise!
Thick child.
It was more larva.
Surprise! It's a thick child.
I think I'll put the little hook he has on his head. I think I'll put that on his sword. Kind of makes it a weirdly shaped sword, but we're going Final Fantasy rules over here, people.
Yeah. Can be whatever. Derek is saying put it on the hilt or the scabbard.
Oh, there you go. That's an idea. Okay,
I like it. I like it on the scabbard as a little piece of decoration.
Yeah, because a lot of times that's an interesting idea to reference. I've completely covered his face with sword now. That a lot of the samurai helmets become very asymmetrical with like one big crescent shape or one big, again, because they became very ceremonial.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's people out there who just know a super ton about samurai armor and my passing knowledge of like, and it's hard and it protects you. Is they're all just screaming at their speakers right now.
Well, that's what experts do. They scream at their speakers. It's okay.
I've heard it referenced that the closest you'll ever feel to being a ghost is when you're listening to a podcast and you know something that the podcast hosts don't know, and so you're just like screaming at them. You're like, no.
I think that sounds about right.
If you had to quantify what really makes something look like a bug, what would you say it is? Because for me, it's always the little hooks on the arms and legs.
Yeah, arm hooks and legs, carapace detail, like that striation in the carapace, the lines.
Yeah.
While you're drawing, for both of these beetles, how many legs would you give them? What do you think?
Well, I there's nothing wrong with either one. I would say they're going to rank real high for me because anything that can be kept as a pet, I think is a little bit more fun. I'm going to go out and say, okay, so 6 legs. I'm going to give them 5 legs, maybe even 5.5 legs. I wish they lived a little longer just for my, I want them to be my pet needs. I wish they lived 100 years so that I could keep them as my little buddy for all time.
Pass them down to your children.
Yeah, exactly. Like a tortoise. I want them to, I mean, even if they just lived a couple years, but I'm quickly realizing over this pod, the bugs just don't have any longevity.
No,
as a creature.
They generally don't. I mean, unless you want 6 years worth of fat larvae, because you could do that.
Oh, that's a good point. So really, Really, I could keep a worm for 6 years and then a
You could.
beetle for 2 weeks.
It's worth it, right?
Yeah, sounds great. I mean, there's something to be said about like a pet that you don't interact with. Like, how much of a pet really is it? Because people are like, "Oh, my snake loves me." I'm like, "Do they love you, or do they just love to be warm in your hands?"
Yeah.
And if you think your snake loves you, that's beautiful for you. I love that for you. But like a dog interacts with you at a level that a snake doesn't really interact with you, and a bug even less. Like a bug does not care about you. Does not even like know you as an entity.
No. To the bug, you're like a tree for them to walk on. We are
Yeah,
so large
exactly.
in comparison.
A bug can have individual quirks. I don't know that they necessarily have individual personalities, but again, that might be just my lack of understanding on the beautiful world of bug. So like I said, these guys have a lot of heroes that reference them
Mm.
in Japan. I would say that samurai in particular in the West is usually a bad guy, which seems counterintuitive to me. Like the bad guy on Ninja Turtles is a samurai.
Oh yeah.
And without getting too deep into a discussion about like Asian representation in comics, like it's not good.
And racism. Yeah.
Yeah, where it intersects with like racism and where it intersects interestingly, if you look at it purely academically and not wow, people suck, uh that you can kind of track it through how American politics feels about Japan at the time. So like
Yeah.
a lot of your early comic stuff, comics became big during World War II, and a lot of that stays relevant for a few years as far as like character creation. So you have a lot of Japanese characters who are like super anti-American imperialist, like, you know, and it's like, oh, this is gross.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss history wise and just bad news history wise between Western thoughts on Eastern culture. So, but that's why we're trying to make sure we're careful with our representation here for your samurai.
Right, and we really want to make sure that
We're respectful
characters
and
of all diverse types are represented as heroes, and
yeah.
that's why the samurai seems like such an obvious choice to me to be more heroic. I would say that the samurai as a hero definitely has a lot of representation in other forms of media.
Right.
I would argue that Batman gets samurai'd a lot.
Wasn't
Like a
there a
lot.
whole series of Batman where he was a
Yeah, where
samurai?
he's like
Right?
he's a samurai. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's technically a ninja. I'm not sure. I didn't
I didn't
engage
read
with it much.
those. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I think samurai for the rhinoceros beetle though was obviously perfect given the name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Kabuto over here.
Yeah.
I would also say that like what's the other one that gets samurai'd a lot? Oh, Wolverine. Obviously, Wolverine
Oh,
hangs out in
yeah.
Japan all the time.
Yeah, there was that whole run about his background.
He spends a lot of time over there. Again, I think that's a what do the kids like these days? They like Japan. Well, so what do the kids like?
Yeah. The
Wolverine.
comic books are reflecting what the kids are
and,
into at the
and
time.
I think it's also important to acknowledge the connection between Japanese comic books and American comic books. That those two things are very influential on each other to begin with. I'm going to call this the bare bones of our samurai character.
Yeah, let me see.
Again, very basic sort of idea, and I'll make these nicer over the week.
Yeah, I mean you've got like 2 weeks or more.
Put this in the live chat. Set.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very rhinoceros beetle looking. Look at this. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've given him this rhinoceros beetle horn, which is not how it displays on real samurai helmets, but I figured we'll go whole hog on the rhinoceros thoughts here. And I've given him kind of this hook sword that kind of mimics that shloop he has in the middle of his head.
That's neat.
And then of course all these body spikes, because you gotta have body spikes when you're a bug character. That's just
beetle legs have to have little spikies.
That's the rules.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, his hilt is again that kind of rhinoceros horn shape. Again, when I make it more detailed and then send you the final version, a lot of beetle. I tried to make beetle kind of shaped armor for his legs, kind of the same way I did for the knight.
I like the I don't know what you'd call it, the skirt, I guess. Also,
yeah,
it looks very beetle abdomen like. It's very good.
Good. I'm glad that came across.
That's very cool.
And then I'll get his Night Buddy in here too. So how do you think these two meet? How do these two characters come to be friends? Is it just their shared love of chivalry?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you can find rhinoceros beetles and stag beetles live in the wild and in somewhat similar environments, so they might just come across each other
There's
doing their thing.
Two brothers in arms. Fate brings them together. Do they have any names I should know about? Like, we'll never match Isabella Tiger Moth for a name.
No, nothing really exciting. There's like the Hercules beetle, or yeah. There's nothing like super. I can't think of like a super cool beetle name. I mean, the Hercules beetle is pretty fun, but
yeah. Hercules, he's definitely
he is the man as far as Greek
that's
mythology.
the dude. So how many? Did you say how many legs you gave it?
Oh, I didn't. I would give them 5 out of 5 both. I think they're adorable.
5 out of 5. He's missing a leg.
Missing a little bit of leg. I agree with your take on their legs are too short.
Yeah, I want this little buddy to stick around and be my friend. And it's hard to do when he's dead.
Oh yeah, Derek brings up a thing that's in my notes, but I didn't mention.
Oh, okay.
That the stag beetles, their family name is Lucanidae, which is a region of Italy where these beetles wear amulets, which is kind of cool.
Amulets, so they would wear them. Once again, we are using beetles as fashion.
Now I want a stag beetle necklace.
By the end of this, we'll have made you a whole outfit. We'll have a dress covered in the shiny green beetles. We'll have a beautiful amulet.
Stag beetle amulet.
Beetle amulet. Okay, we'll find a whole outfit by the end, and you will become the bug queen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Derek makes a good point. You gotta give the knight a little amulet.
Oh yeah. Let me do that right now.
Oh, you make it that iridescent green that some of the stag beetles come in. Very pretty.
I wonder if there's a responsibly sourced place to get a beetle.
There might be. There might be breeders where they breed them to make them jewelry out of them and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. I hadn't considered that. It's just one of those guys that I think they're so cool looking. I'm always surprised when I don't see them more, but maybe that just comes down to that their lifespans aren't very long, and that they're not from around here. But I always expect them to be like, oh, I'm going to like a pinned bug display. I expect there to be stag beetles and rhinoceros beetles, and oftentimes there's not. But maybe I'm just going with the wrong bug collections.
I think we covered everything. Does little Rotunda have anything to add to the conversation?
Yeah, Rotunda, how'd you feel about these bugs?
You like them? Oh, it sounds to me like she loves these beetles.
Oh, she does. She wants to chase them down.
Does she chase? I don't know if she's much of a chaser.
I don't know that she's much of a chaser. Listeners may remember Rotunda from last week when we discussed her beautifulness, plus-sized glory. Yes. She is not much of a bug chaser.
Oh, Rotunda. And now a much healthier weight than when she was adopted.
Yes.
So she's doing good.
Head on over to Capital Rotunda on Instagram for tips and tricks on how to get your 18-pound cat down to a nice, healthy 12 pounds.
Oh, Rotunda. She's adorable.
She's a good cat. And I don't want to seem biased, but she's a really good cat. Like she just wants to sit with you and snuggle you. Yeah, she's a hangout. I mean, she's the cat everyone wants, right? Where she just hangs out with you and is cute. So, well, maybe that's just what I want from a cat. If you have any pets that you want us to see, particularly if they are dressed up as any sort of bug, as we discussed in the Woolly Bear Festival, or if they're just looking particularly cute, or if they're especially a bug-like, if they're a beetle, ant farms, send us pictures of your pets. We want to see them. You can send them to us over on Reddit. You can send it to us on Instagram. We're out there. Come talk to us. And we'll be seeing you next time, guys. Bugs Need Heroes is created by Derek Conrad and Kelly Zimmerman, hosted by Amanda Niday and Kelly Zimmerman. Bugs Need Heroes is produced and edited by Derek Conrad. Our music is Ladybug Castle by Roll Music. All character art by Amanda Niday. Got a bug question? Email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. Check us out on BugsNeedHeroes.com for the visual companion to our episodes with the artwork of the bug-related heroes. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, and subreddit under the Bugs Need Heroes name. Thanks for coming by.
He looks like an angry, dirty man, and I love it.